So Wendy asks, when you edit an assembly on the fly, does it also adjust the BOM cost? Let's do an example of that, okay? Because that's like a really sort of deep philosophical question that comes with the territory of modifying BOMs. So let's say, for example, the bill of materials for a CC1 mix. Let's go into the edit. So the CC1 mix has a bill of materials cost of $52, but it has an average cost of $53. What the heck does that mean? So first of all, QuickBooks will calculate the cost of an assembly based on your real historical cost, not based on your bill of materials cost. In QuickBooks, your bill of materials cost, which is what you're seeing now, is just informational. Okay? It is suggesting that if it is true that all the costs that are in your item list turn out to be the real cost in a bill, then your actual cost of your unit will be $52.15. However, the real cost turns out to be a little bit higher, like in this example, because we added some shipping to the labels and we added some shipping cost. I don't know, I think it's to the sugar or something. So we added some additional cost to the individual items. So the real costs that are affecting the valuation of that assembly item are driven by the real historical costs in QuickBooks. They have nothing to do. They have nothing to do with the total material cost that you see in here. Okay? And the best way to show an example of that is to do it through an invoice. So let me go back here for a second. It'll be the best way to illustrate that answer. I guarantee you, Wendy, you're going to love this answer because this is the most complete answer you will get to a question like this. But let's pull up an actual invoice, okay? I'm going to pull up an actual invoice from Mr. Cookie Monster. I'm going to date this on the 25th, okay? And I'm going to do a Control Y on the keyboard so I can know what are my costs, okay? So I'm also going to simplify this invoice and just sell one unit. That will make it a lot easier to understand. So I'm going to simplify invoice and make it one unit, okay? And then do a Control Y, and then my cost per unit right now when I sold this product, it's $1.30. That's my cost, my real out the door, out the pocket, coming out of my accounting is $1.30. If I were to look at my item list and I look at this product, which is this one here, the 20 count, and I go to the edit, the suggested cost, what QuickBooks thinks my cost is, based on the information that I put in here, is $1.70. However, it turned out that the reality changed my average cost to $1.30. Okay, QuickBooks will always use your average real cost. Now, let's take a look at what this built. So this was built from a CC1 mix, right? And a CC1 mix was built from, the use of butter, sugar, flour, whatever. I'm gonna change the cost of flour. I'm gonna change the historical cost of flour so we can see the cost change on this specific invoice. So first I'm gonna change the cost of the flour in this case. I'm gonna make the cost, let's say, $2 a pound. So I'm changing it in the item list, right? It's not changing the average cost, it's just changing the index cost in the item list. I change that, I click OK. Then I click refresh on my P&L for my invoice. Nothing changes. I have not changed historical costs, I've only changed the reference cost. Let's go to my CC1 mix, click on edit, and I want to change my the cost of my, let's say the index cost of my CC1 mix. I'm going to change it, let's say, to $1, and then I'm going to click OK. Okay, and then we'll look at our historical cost of our invoice. Nothing has changed. I have not changed historical costs. Okay, I've only changed what the suggested cost on the item is moving forward. I'm going to go into my FG 20 count product here, and I'm going to tell it that my bill of material, even though right now is telling me it's 22 cents, I'm actually going to force it and tell it it's actually $1.50. So we have our real historical costs, which are $1.30. We have our suggested bill of materials cost based on the items that I edited and added a price to it, which is 22 cents. And then I have my defined cost, which is me telling QuickBooks what I think this product costs, which is $1.50. Then I click OK, go back and refresh my invoice. Again, nothing has changed. Absolutely nothing has changed. The only way to change the real cost in a manufacturing process is to change the real cost in a transaction in which you paid for the product. So if I were to change the cost of my lard, which affects all this, or the cost of my flour, which affects all this, then it will flow through my average cost from my invoice. So I'm going to go back and look at the last time I purchased the flour, and I'm going to change the cost of this flour. So let's say I made a mistake and these were not $17.25 a pop. These were actually $27 a pop, and the gluten-free was actually $22 a pop. So I'm actually going in there and I'm changing a real transaction, which is going to change the underlying flow through workflow cost of the item. Once I click on Save and Close, we will finally see a change in that invoice. Okay, so let's make the bill 380, click on Save and Close, go back into the invoice, and now you see the flows cost through. So your question is, when you make these changes, when you edit the items, when you edit the price of the items, when you build this bill of materials, does it change the cost? The answer is no. The only thing that changed the real cost are real transactions, like bills, checks, item receipts. So when you receive those items and eventually pay for them, that historical cost of the item is the one that's going to flow through and drive in your assemblies, in your WIP, in your final cost of goods sold. It's actually what's going to post into my cost of goods sold. So Wendy, did that answer your question? I know it was a lot.